Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Entrepreneur Journey. And today, my guest is Adam Fleming, and he is CEO of Motivational Listing International. Hello, Adam. How are you?
Hi, Doug. Great to be with you and all your trailblazers today.
All right. So, without further ado, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, as people who are looking at the video can see, I'm a big White Sox fan, excited for some playoff baseball this fall. Big baseball fan. I've got a wife at 23 years and 4 kids. The oldest is in university, and the youngest just turned 11 a couple of weeks ago. So we're kind of moving into the empty nest phase here in the next few years. So that's kind of an interesting place of kind of where we're at in life. And, I guess the main thing about me, just in terms of who I am and less about what I do, but more about who I am, is I just love to encourage people. And I've known that since I was in high school, and my cross country team voted me most inspirational. I wasn't the fastest guy in the group, but my senior year, I was the one that got everybody charged up, and we qualified for the state meet. So
Nice.
I knew that, quite a long time ago. And then when I discovered coaching, as we'll talk about more later, realized that there's a method to the madness for how to encourage people. So
Nice.
that's what I love to do.
Couple questions from your introduction.
Sure.
So you're a White Sox fan, a baseball fan. Have you been a baseball fan your whole life, and have you been a White Sox fan your whole life?
I think it was around 1981. My dad, so I grew up in Central Illinois. My dad took me to a game when I was, I want to say like 8 or 9, maybe. Yeah, I've been a White Sox fan ever since then. So
you had to love the Field of Dreams recently that they did. Major League Baseball did.
I did actually, Doug. I play on a vintage baseball team. We play 1860s rules.
Oh.
Without gloves, no cussing, no spitting, no gloves, that kind of thing. And we actually played at the Field of Dreams in 2018 on the old
Awesome.
field. It was we played a couple of games in July when the corn was up. It was amazing. Yeah. Really cool to see. I watched the entire game. Yeah. I
Oh,
watched the entire game on Fox.
that's
Love
one
the
of
Field of
those
Dreams.
once in a lifetime experiences to play
Yeah.
there.
Generally, although it might be, who knows, maybe our team will go back in a couple of years
Yeah,
and do it again. I don't know, but it's pretty
that
neat.
that'd be awesome. That was one of my favorite sports growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch it as much as I used to, but I played in like Babe Ruth League
Mm-hmm.
when I was young, and I loved it.
Yeah, I was never good,
Yeah, me
but
either. I
I
can
still
hit.
play. It's more about having fun now when you're
Yeah,
old guy.
I can hit. I can't field worth a darn.
Ah, yeah.
So
Try fielding without a glove. That's something.
yeah, I don't think I'd even want to try that.
My hand's still a little bit sore from Saturday.
Nice, nice. So a few more getting to know you questions. If you could bring only 3 items to a deserted island, what would
Yeah.
they be?
Yeah, I thought about that for a little bit, and I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to die out there, or if anybody's going to find me, or if they're just going to find my, skeleton someday. Now that we're in October, we're talking about skeletons, right? Oh, it's
Yeah,
not quite up October. Anyways,
close.
I would have to take the laptop
Mm,
so that I could write books,
mm,
and I think along with that, I would need some kind of solar system,
mm.
solar panel, so that I could charge the laptop. I'm assuming that this desert island doesn't have isn't connected to electricity or the World
Right.
Wide Web, as they used to call it. I don't know. The third thing, I guess let's just go with the White Sox hat, just to keep the
Oh,
sun off my head. Yeah,
nice,
there you go.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. I know you have traveled a lot. Do you have a favorite
Mhm.
place that you have been?
Um, no, I have 3 or 4 pretty favorite places that I've been. My wife and I, we like to travel when we like to go to off the beaten path type stuff.
Mm,
So we don't go on cruises. We don't go, a lot to Vegas or Florida or whatever. We did have our honeymoon in Florida, and that's a whole different story. We don't have time for crazy stuff happened on our honeymoon. But I really love the beaches in Thailand.
mm,
I had an amazing day at the Rock of Gibraltar. looking at the Gibraltar Strait and, the Mediterranean on one side, the Atlantic on the other side, and Africa 10 miles
Wow.
away across the water. And I spent some time living in Egypt and still have lots of amazing friends in Egypt. And that's a place I'm really excited about going back to some point when this COVID thing is, well, I don't know if it's ever going to be over, but when it's settled down, let's say.
Yeah. The Rock of Gibraltar sounds amazing to me. And now you just put that on my bucket list. So
yeah, when I was like 19, I worked in a nursing home as a nurse's assistant, CNA, and there was this old retired geologist, and he would hold this pebble in the palm of his hand, and he would say, the social worker brought me this from Nova Scotia. It pleases me more than the Rock of Gibraltar. And he would just like rub it in his palm. He was blind, so it was like this tactile kind of thing for him. And I was like, that's such an odd phrase. So I've been to both Nova Scotia and the Rock of Gibraltar now. And so it's interesting. You talk to people and then they say like little phrases like that. And it's like, oh, bucket list item, boom.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I'd like to go to Nova Scotia too, I think. So
yeah, it's lovely. Yeah.
So books, what has been the best book that you've read this year?
So this year, the book that I got into is actually a nonfiction book called Generations, and it's like 500 pages long. It's the history of America's future from 1584 to 2069. It was written in 1992.
Wow.
And on page 15, these guys predict a civic crisis in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. On or around 2020, we expect a civic crisis. So I was like, okay, these guys took a good hard look at sort of a cycle of generational values. Like the Gen X have a set of values, and the millennials have a set of values, and there's like a repeating set of 4 generations that have cycled the values through, and then the 5th generation starts the first one again. And by looking at all the history going back to the 1500s, these guys were able to predict a civic crisis based on kind of how values go. It's wild. So very, very interesting book. If you're a values junkie, if you're into what are my core values and all that kind of stuff, understanding generational values is really interesting. So that's what I love about this book.
If I could bring up as a marketing guy, I think from a marketing perspective, understanding the generational values is key too. So
yeah, if you wanted to understand what kids being born now are going to want in 20 years, and you want to be able to start preparing for like building the products and services for them when they're 15, so that when they hit 20, you're selling exactly what they're asking for. If you understood the values of this generation that's probably starting around 2020 and going to be born from now until 2040, then this would be a way to get into that. So yeah, definitely a good marketing tool to understand, or even just to understand what are millennials going to look like when we hit, well, we are starting to hit getting close to 60 now, I think a lot of us. So I'm on the second wave of the second decade of Gen X. I'm getting all mixed up, but the Gen X are now, the early ones are becoming, kind of in the elder years now. And so how the values interact with each generation and how they change as they go through different life stages is another kind of thing this book talks about. So what are they going to want? What are Gen Xers going to want in their elder years? That kind of thing.
So sometimes I don't remember which generation I'm in. I'm 47. So am I on the front end of Gen X?
Oh, I'm 47 too. So yeah, we're in this kind of Gen X run, according to this book anyway. Gen X runs from around 1960 or so till 1980.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. So we're smack dab in the middle, sort of.
Yeah, pretty much smack dab in the middle, but we're a little bit on the second half. And then, the millennials start around 1980 or so. And my sister was born in 80, and I've asked her about it as I was reading this book, and she's like, Well, some days I feel like a Gen X and some days I feel like a millennial, it's like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense when you're right on the fence. So,
Yeah. Awesome.
mhm,
So having just asked you about books, I also know that you're a writer and you spoke about that in the desert
mhm,
island scenario. What
yeah.
type of books do you like to write?
So right now I'm actually writing a book about marketing, but I can't say much about it because I'm co-authoring it with someone else, and I got to keep that kind of under wraps. On October 1, which is this Friday, my next book is coming out on Amazon. It's called Saint Kipstopher and the Miraculous Yarkarma, and
Nice.
this is the fourth book in like a steampunk fantasy series. So I'm getting close to the end of that. Actually, the fifth and final book is drafted, and just a couple more hours of editing and getting the cover design together, and that'll be done. And then the first novel I wrote is called White Buffalo Gold, and this actually has that story in it about they brought me this rock from Nova Scotia. It
Oh,
pleases me more than the Rock of Gibraltar, and it deals with some the old gentleman in the nursing home in a small town in Nebraska. Of course, it's fictionalized and everything, but this is kind of a coming of age story. And then I
nice.
also do some books around leadership. So like I have this one was actually traditionally published. Most people are publishing on Amazon themselves these days, but this was through a small house called Entrust Source, and it's called The Art of Motivational Listening, Creative Ideas for Effective Leaders. So this is
Mm,
almost like less, it's not a linear like how to coach or how to lead. It's more like a series of, actually they're kind of refined blog posts. So they're kind of one-offs. It's a great, let's say, bathroom reader. You can just
mhm.
like pick it up and read one chapter, and it doesn't really have to connect with the one before it or after it. It's just like a series of little ideas about you know, about listening mainly.
So, question about that. So, I noticed you have nonfiction and you have fiction.
Mhm.
Do you like to write one more than the other?
I do. I like to write fiction more. It's
Use
just,
your imagination.
but yeah, I get to use my creative spark. And I'll say this last one I'll show you. It's called Vortex Street. It's really skinny. It's travel poems and flash fiction. So it's like
Oh,
poems that I wrote on the beach in Thailand or, Belize, or things that I wrote. And then, you know, it's just kind of a fun little book. So
if someone wanted to get any of those books, are they all available on Amazon, or is there another place they could go to get any of
yeah,
those?
they're all on Amazon. You just want to look me up with my middle initial, which is G. So it's Adam G. Fleming with Fleming, one M. People get that
Okay,
mixed up. So
because I imagine like there's such a multitude of interests. Their interest might be piqued by any one of those.
that's the thing. I think now that I have 11 books available on Amazon, I think there is kind of something for everyone. I
Yeah,
agree, Doug. Thanks.
nice.
Yeah, good point.
So now let's get into your journey as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Tell us what inspired you to become a coach.
Yeah, so I already told a bit of that story at the very beginning about how I knew that I love to encourage people. So I was in my early 30s and had never really had much of a leadership position when I went to a guy that I worked with. And I said, I haven't had a mentor for a while. Would you mentor me? Excuse me. And he said, no, but I'll coach you. And I was like, okay, man, whatever you want to call it, it's good with me. And he started to coach me. I found out he was going through a professional coach training program at the time, a pretty intense one that takes a full year. And so he needed guinea pigs and people to kind of practice with, just doing life coaching or, whatever you want to call it. Life purpose, I think, was kind of the module that he was in. So helping people uncover their purpose and passion and that kind of thing. And I was like, this is amazing. He's not telling me what to do. He's not, directive at all. And yet I feel like I'm uncovering stuff. And I realized that, that mad exhorter kind of encourager with my hair up on end, like Einstein or whatever, is like, there's a methodology that he's learning, that's incredibly powerful when you pair that sort of discipline. There's skills, there's a certain discipline of really keeping your mouth shut, which I'm not doing today because I'm not coaching right now.
Right.
Um, and so I was like, oh, this is cool. This is something for me. And I ended up going through training back in 2009. So that's how I got started as an entrepreneur. As many people are coaches know, like you become a coach because you're passionate about helping and encouraging and supporting people. And then you find out, oh, I need to have a business structure for this, or I won't eat anything tomorrow,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Nice.
entrepreneur by default, right?
Yep. Yep.
Plus,
Yeah.
I mentioned that I was a CNA back when I was 19. I got a nursing degree. I hated working weekends on somebody else's. Now I work occasional Saturdays doing trainings and stuff, but that's when I want, when I want to. It's not when a boss tells me you're working this weekend and I'm like, no, I want to go to the Sox game,
Yep. Yep. That's the big part of entrepreneurship, is to be able to have the freedom. Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
But unfortunately, not to take this down a rabbit trail, but a lot of people get into entrepreneurship with that goal, but they end up in just another job for themselves because they don't set up the systems and the structure necessary to allow the freedom. So
that's true.
Very good point about, having to get into a business acumen rather than just a coach. If you're going to want to, if you want it as a business.
Yeah. You have to understand that you're going to be selling. And if you're not comfortable with selling, then you might have to find some kind of internal coaching position with the company, which is fine. That's needed place for good coaches too. So,
yeah. So tell us about any struggles you have had and how you got through them.
Well, I think the biggest struggle for me has been finding clients. And I think the second one, or maybe they're actually really tied together, is the idea that everybody has to have a niche. So for the longest time, I didn't really have a niche. I was just like, I'll coach anybody who's, let's say it's a little bit more like a psychographic than a demographic. It's people who want to make a difference in with their life, and not just kind of like grab a stack of cash and go play golf in Florida. You might have noticed Florida's maybe not my favorite place.
I grew up there and I don't live there anymore. So
okay,
my wife loves it. We do go down there on vacation. I'm not going on a rabbit trail, but I do not want to move back there. It is way too hot in the summer. So
right. And Florida, for anybody living in Florida, love you. You're Americans. It's all good.
Yes. Yep.
So where were we, Doug?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I interrupted.
No, it's fine.
Now I'm trying to remember. So Florida came up.
We were talking about
your
finding clients.
Yep.
Yeah. So then I realized, like, right now I have an Egyptian a woman who is interested in becoming an actress and finding some purpose in that. I have an Amish guy who's runs a woodworking business. I have a missionary couple in Central America. So I'm still coaching with my one-on-one stuff. It's a really broad variety of people. But so that's difficult to market. I mean, I talk to marketers and they're like, I don't know what to do with you.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
So that's been the struggle. The cool thing is, 2 years ago, when we went to live in Egypt, I had an invitation to create curriculum to help people learn how to coach well, to do the basic stuff. Like, how do you listen well? How do you listen for what's important in what's being said? And then how do you ask a powerful question about that? That's not leading, that's not telling the client where you think they should go, but really is just inviting them to explore for themselves what their possibilities are. And as we built that curriculum and trained a bunch of people in Egypt and a few other places now in the Middle East too, since that time, I realized that this is what I'm really passionate about. Ever since 2010, I've actually been teaching short, like 6-hour, 8-hour courses on how to be a good coach. And we've just expanded that to the professional level so that we're now, my niche really is training other people in the coaching skills. And, I know there's a lot on some Facebook groups about coaching that's like coaches coaching coaches who coaches coaches who's like, it's just like a big pyramid scheme. But that's not really it. That's not what. So people say, oh, so you coach coaches. And I say, no, training is a totally different skill set than coaching. So not only do I have to be a good coach, I have to be a good trainer, which means how do I model just one tiny piece of a coaching conversation and then get people to practice it and then get them to debrief it so there's a lot that goes into good training that doesn't have anything to do with knowing how to coach. It's another layer of skill set on top of coaching. Does that make sense?
Yes. So a follow-up question to that. Do you train people to be coaches? Is people that are inspired to want to coach, and you train them how to do that?
Right. And some of them have already started coaching. In our last round of training, we had a career coach, we had a marketing coach, we had a creativity coach, and a couple who were more like undecided, let's say. Like when you go to your first year of college and you're undecided, I don't know what my niche is going to be, but I know I want to be a coach. So it's really available to people who are already kind of hung out the shingle and then get in that conversation with somebody and realize, I'm not really sure how to deliver value without telling people from my expertise what they should do, which, in the kind of International Coach Federation model of coaching, that's not really coaching. And I'll tell you a story, Doug, because I think this is really key. I was talking to a colleague of mine this summer, and he runs a nonprofit in the Washington, D.C. area with 300 employees. He's the executive director. And he said, I'm probably going to let my coach go soon because I've already heard his stories more than once, all of them more than once. And I was like, come on, man, you know that coaching isn't about his story. It's about him drawing out your story out of you. And he's like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm going to let him go. So if you're a coach or you're thinking about being a coach and you're concerned with the whole idea of retention, client retention, that's what I fix. Because when you're drawing out of someone, there's like that's a well that never runs out of water, that you can always drop a bucket in and pull something new out. I have a client who's like been with me 6 years. And I was like, are you sure you want to keep going? He's 76 years old. he's going to retire soon. I mean, it's not going to last forever, but he keeps coming back once a month for a coaching meeting. And he's like, I'm never even sure what we're going to talk about, but you always find a way to help me figure something new out that I wasn't thinking about before. So it's really about retention. It's about delivering value in a one-on-one or a group coaching setting. It's not about building a coaching program that people go through online and never interact with you.
That is some awesome nuggets of wisdom right there for anyone, just starting out on their coaching journey. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with a coaching program online that people go through without ever talking to you. And I understand the whole funnel thing where, that's a small cost engagement. And then you work them up to the higher level engagement. That's where, if that's going to be your high dollar engagement, you better be good at it. Please be good at it, because if you're not, you're making the rest of us look bad.
That's right. Yeah. And I think with COVID, there's been a flood of people wanting to do coaching.
Sure. Especially if you had a corporate job that you figured out when you started working from home that you could do it in 4 hours a day. It's like, what am I going to do with myself? I guess I'll hang out my coaching shingle too and see if I can make some extra cash or, however that works out for people. But yeah.
So now a little bit about I almost skipped a question. Where do you see your journey taking you next?
Well, that's an interesting question because we're really sort of in the beginning phases. I built a couple of sets of curriculum for other, kind of on contract while I was in Egypt and stuff. And we've built our curriculum for our company. But I'm actually about 30 days from taking a sabbatical because I also run a nonprofit and I've been doing that for 7 years. And it's just time to take a break. So I'm getting ready to take a hike in Portugal and Spain on the Camino de Santiago, which is a famous pilgrimage route that people have been walking for 1,100 years. And I'm just going to go walk for a couple weeks in November. And when I get back, I'll have a better idea of, hopefully, So I'm ready to take a break and kind of think about, things like, do I want to keep running my nonprofit? Or do I want to transition eventually more into writing more books and putting more of my energy into marketing those books? Because, podcasts are great, but I don't know how big your audience is, but hey guys, buy one book. That would make me so happy.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, I don't know. I think really in the next couple of years, it's going to be about really building this coach training academy.
Awesome.
Most likely.
And it's awesome. Like I've experienced things like that where you step back for a while and then your best ideas come to the front because you're not in the day-to-day task, do this. And you're able to actually think about your path. Right.
Right.
So I think you're going to come away from that with awesome ideas.
Right. But there's no question that our next round of coach training is going to start on April 11. So we are definitely looking for people who are thinking about, maybe that's something I want to do, have a conversation with me now so that when April rolls around, you've got the budget together for it or whatever you need if you're going to be a coach.
And you said is that a group coaching or is that one-on-one?
That would be group training. That would be a training experience where it's like 80 hours.
Wow.
It's a full-fledged profession. It's like taking almost like taking a master's course at a university.
Wow.
Or
Super
like half of one, maybe. Yeah.
So now let me ask you about your expertise.
Sure.
Tell us about what you help your clients achieve.
Well, I'm going to focus mostly on the training. So we've talked about it a little bit already, but what I hope to help people achieve are two key things. When you go into coaching, that you're able to coach in a way that draws value out of that client over and over again, so you have that retention. Because the hardest thing to do is find clients. The last thing you want to do is coach somebody for 6 weeks and then find out that you're not really helping them and they're done paying you. Goodbye. And then you got to start all over with your marketing. Well, you just got to it becomes like a revolving door, right? You don't want that. And the other thing that we're doing is helping people to be able to be certified by the International Coach Federation. For example, there's a company called Pluma. I'm going to be talking to them tomorrow a little bit and getting to know more about them. But they only hire coaches who've been, 10 years in corporate and have an ICF certification. So there's more and more of these kind of coaching agencies that will just hire you to do 10 clients. And you get lots of experience and you get paid decent and whatever that is, but you can't get those jobs without a certification from the International Coach Federation. So I think we're going to see over the next 10 years, maybe it's my study of generations. No, seriously, but I've been around the industry for 15 years now. And I think we're going to see, especially corporate work, moving more and more steadily towards looking for people who have International Coach Federation credentials. And so we help people get that.
Nice. That was going to be my next question. If you help people get that certification. Awesome.
Yeah. Two of the programs that I've built on contract are already certified by the ICF. And now we're kind of in the beta mode of getting this course certified. But once we get it, which I'm sure we will, because I've already done 2 of them, then we can grandfather all our graduates into that certification process. So it's going to be fluid.
So this is a question that I wasn't prepared before, but I'm just interested.
That's fine.
Like when you're
throw me some curveballs, Doug.
That's right. For baseball.
Yeah, right. I can't hit a curveball.
I don't think so. I couldn't either. Give me fastballs, give me anything else. So what type of person do you like? There's usually someone that's fit for coaching, right? So can you kind of outline what that person, I'm going towards the word ideal client for you, but what I'm really talking about is what kind of person fits into that coaching mold?
Yeah. To someone to be a coach or someone to be coached?
Someone that wants to become a coach, like your ideal client. What would make them an ideal client for you?
I think it takes an incredible amount of humility to believe that you could help people without ever opening your mouth or sharing your expertise. I think that that's the big dichotomy in the coaching industry right now. Is there's half of the people who think coaching is all about sharing your expertise, which, as I said, is going to get you fired eventually once somebody's heard all your stories. Not fired, let's just say gently removed from payroll.
Yeah.
And then there's the other kind of perspective, which is how do you help someone by, so I guess the first thing I'm looking for is the humility to think that it's not all about you and what you have to share with the world. And obviously I love to share my thoughts with the world. I've written 11 books. So that's the milieu, that's the kind of MO of a writer. But writing and coaching is just as different as training and coaching. They're different kind of, so humility, we talk a lot about flexibility and spontaneity. So if you're going to take someone through a program, let's say that does a really good job of showing gathering the data as you coach them so that you can show the ROI and all that kind of good stuff. That doesn't mean that you don't have to still have some kind of level of being willing to be spontaneous and kind of in the moment. And that doesn't mean you have to be good at it to join a coach training program. It just means you have to be willing to learn to be more flexible as you're working with people, and recognize that whatever the agenda is or whatever the program is may need to bend in a different way for each individual client so that you can help them and the material kind of, curve together or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have a good metaphor for that, but you get the idea.
I love that, because a lot of complaints that you get about a lot of coaching is, I see it works, but it didn't work for me. It's probably because it was so rigid and there's no way to adapt to that person, the needs of that person moving forward. So
exactly. And so one of the units that we have, one of the modules that we have is called improve your listening, but the improv is like capitalized. So it's like we're doing 6 hours of improv games just to get better at spontaneous listening and responding without an agenda. Because if you've ever played any improv games anywhere, you know that the minute you try to steer it somewhere, the whole thing falls apart. It just, it doesn't go. You have to listen to what the other person said and respond appropriately with kind of the whole concept of yes and. So you say we're driving a car down the road. First thing, I can't say no, because then the scene is dead. So I have to say yes, and it's a really nice Tesla. But we need to find a place to we need to find a place to charge it up or something, and then the other person says yes, and we're in the middle of the Mojave Desert and we are 1,000 miles from anywhere, and so anyway, those kind of games actually that we play in that training actually helps people get better at coaching, and It's fun.
Nice. So I love improv. It's like one of my favorite things to go and watch, actually.
Yeah, it's super fun to watch.
Yeah.
If I had time for one more hobby, which I don't, I'd try to join an improv troupe.
Oh yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Definitely. Yeah, it would be.
So what's the biggest problem you see most of your clients having?
Well, again, in the training, I don't see it so much as a problem I guess most of the people that I've trained have a pretty high willingness to learn. And then so here it is. It's the whole idea of the unconsciously incompetent moving to the consciously competent, and then at the top end, like unconscious incompetence. But I think what a lot of people have is the problem of not even realizing how incompetent they are at coaching. And they're just so blind to that. But the cool thing is that whenever people have the humility to say, yeah, I want to learn that thing, And then they come to it, and within the first couple training sessions, all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and they go, because I'll do a demo. Like I'll just say, here's a thing that we do in coaching, and explain it for 10 minutes and then show it by doing that bit of coaching with one of our trainees. And then they're like, oh, that's something I can't do. Not yet is what I say, and so like, once the light bulb goes on that I really don't know how to do a lot of this stuff, and I thought I maybe was a good listener, but all of a sudden I'm realizing that maybe I'm not. And then it just becomes, it's not really a problem. It's just a training process. So you get better and better and better at it the longer the training goes. And then it's exciting. Like at the end, when you graduate somebody and they go get an International Coach Federation, certificate, like my friend Heidi El Masri from Cairo, got hers a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, that's awesome. You just grew so much. It's really cool.
Nice. Out of all the coaching you've done, what has been your favorite experience?
Well, I guess because I'm not really data driven, one of the coolest things that ever happened was I was working with a guy who wanted to go do nonprofit work in Thailand. And he came to me kind of discouraged, I guess I would say, because he needed a certain budget, and he, like, his current donations to his nonprofit organization were only like 37% of what he needed to be able to move from the States to Thailand and do his thing that he was, feeling super called to do. Right. So after about 13 months, he sent me a chart. He had gone from 37% to 110 in 13 months. And he was like, I'm moving in December. And that was a couple of years ago. And I was like, that's amazing, because, it's one thing to uncover your purpose in life. It's another thing to figure out how to fund it. So it was neat because my client tracked the data, and which is something I generally haven't put a lot of focus on when I'm coaching people, but I was glad that he did, because it was like, there's something I can point to and go, did you have an ROI? Heck yes, we did. How much of it is due to me? That's kind of hard to say. He had to do all the work. He had to make all the fundraising trips and talk to donors and call people and write people. And that takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of courage, and he did it. So it's hard to put your finger on how much it's worth, but it was certainly worth something. So
nice. That brings me to another question. Again, not on the list of questions. So when a coach is not coaching coaches, right? When they're not trained coaches, what you probably run into a lot are people that aren't really coachable, right? I guess that's the best word to say. So in your mind, is there a way how do you pre-qualify those? Like from a sales perspective, you don't want to bring a lot of those people on because if they're not doing the work, you're not getting the results. So
right.
I
guess
can you just
do your reputation any right. favors? Right. Yeah. You want clients that will do your reputation some favors for sure. Because they got the results they were looking for. And I think, just off the top of my head, Doug, I think one of the first things that I think of is self-leadership, or just like an interest and willingness in lifelong learning, in growth, and a capacity to do those things, and then an interest and willingness in being accountable. And I just learned some really cool new stuff about accountability last week from a guy in the Netherlands. So I'm always learning about that stuff too. And it was really cool how he said, he's a futurist. So he was talking about how you're actually accountable to your spouse, your source, I can't think of the third one, and then your sons and daughters. So the idea was you're accountable actually to what most people would call your downline, right? More than you are accountable to your upline. So your upline should be accountable to you. My mentor is accountable to me. And the way I explained this to a training group last week was, I'm accountable to you guys because I'm training you, I have to be here like 5 minutes early on the Zoom call, ready to go, because I'm training you. So they're like the downline in that sense, right? But I'm the one who has to show up and be professional for their sakes, and being accountable for, the destiny that I'm building in the future is accountability to my kids. It's a really interesting idea, but I think those are some of the things that you're looking for. And again, maybe just the humility to say, I don't have it all together and I don't have all the answers, but I'm also confident enough that I don't need somebody to come in here and give me all the answers and just spoon feed me. I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to pick up my fork and my knife and cut my steak and eat it myself. I just need someone to walk alongside of me and help kind of continue drawing out of me the gems that I know are in me. I know I've got this, but I know I can't do it alone. So it's kind of like an interesting sort of parallel thoughts, right? On the one hand, I don't have it all together. On the other hand, I do believe in myself enough that with someone's help to ask me the right questions, I can figure it out on my own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely does.
I
Definitely
think
does.
that answers the question pretty well. So I think people, there's definitely some people who are not ready for coaching yet. They can become ready for coaching.
Yep, they can change, I'm sure.
Sure.
It has been wonderful having you. For the last thing, any parting words for our audience? And then also I want you to tell people how to reach out to you if they are interested in learning more about becoming a coach or any of your books or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, our website is motivationallistening.net. And there are links, there are places on there that you can set a short meeting with me. So it's not difficult to find how to set, a meeting, just an inquiry, I'm interested in the course. I want to know how much it costs or whatever. My books are, as we mentioned earlier, Adam G. Fleming. If you just search that on Amazon, you should be able to find it. And yeah, can I hand out my phone number? Is that cool?
Whatever you want to put on here.
I don't mind. I mean, you should, if you're gonna text me, you should let me know first of all that you heard about me from Doug Greathouse, so that I can give him something, some little gift card or something.
Just a shout out.
Yes. No, it can be more than a shout out. Like, appreciate being on your show. It's 574-238-7872. Don't expect me to answer from November 1 to 19.
Nice.
In 2021.
Because he will be in Spain and Portugal.
I will not be paying attention to life except for what's really important.
That I love that. One day I also want to go to Spain. So you've been a lot of places that I want to go.
Do it, man. Where have you been that I want to go?
I've only been in the States, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Have you been to Sedona?
No, Sedona? I haven't been out west a whole lot, actually. Where's Sedona?
Arizona.
Arizona. Oh, yeah, I have been to Arizona one time, but I haven't been to Sedona.
So my favorite places in the United States: Sedona, Boulder, Colorado. Beautiful. And Oregon around Crater Lake.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a place called Sun River, I believe it's called, that we stayed, and it's like one of the best resorts in the world. You can horseback, you can kayak, you can. There's just so many different things that you can do, especially if you love nature.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So
I would say it's funny that I've been to like 20 countries, but I've never been to California.
Yeah, I have been to California, and I have no desire. I take that back. I've been to Southern California. I don't have a desire to go back there.
Yeah,
I do have a desire to go to where the redwoods are, wine country, that area.
Yeah. I haven't done a lot in the U.S. West, but I've been all over the East Coast, and I love it. We have. That's the thing about the U.S., Doug. Maybe we're going way over time, but I just love the diversity that we have here. You can go to. I mean, you could fit almost the entire of Europe in the United States, and we've got all kinds of different geography and geology and things to see, and a lot of cool people too.
Yeah, where I live, I'm 2 hours from the mountains and 4 hours from the beach. So
That's pretty nice. I'm in northern
Yeah.
Indiana. I'm just 2 hours from the White Sox, which is, that's okay.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. It's been great having you again, Adam, and I look forward to continuing our relationship.
Appreciate it, Doug. Thanks a lot. You guys take care.